All right. Welcome to the very first Yanks Abroad, our new soccer, football, footy, whatever you want to call it, channel. We're going to be talking Premier League. We're going to be talking Arsenal, Tottenham, talking U.S. men's national team, European championships, everything and anything soccer, anything football. We're here for it.
Everything and nothing at the same time.
For sure. I'm Will Balsam.
Casey Settleman.
Hopefully some of you are finding me from my Hail End account related with Arsenal. I'll definitely be posting that here to get it going. Casey's got his own stuff going as well.
Yep.
If you're here through that, you know why you're here. And if not, we're trustworthy voices, and hopefully we'll bring you some good content along the way.
Will's more trustworthy than I am. I'll put that out before we even get started. But yeah, episode 1, we have our team of the Premier League thus far. We're halfway through the season. You want to start us off?
Sure. You want to go 1-1 or you want to go
I was thinking
team?
the same thing. What do you think? Full team or 1-1? Because if we go 1-1, we may be arguing through every single pick.
Sure, but okay. Let's go through my whole team first. Let's do that.
For it.
You're going to like
Do
this
you want
first
my
one.
reactions throughout or wait till
Just
you get
be
through?
natural. Just be natural.
Okay.
If you're very, very frustrated by something, feel free. But I think you're going to find this to be pretty fair.
All right.
At goalie, I've got Vicario.
I love that. That's a
He's
brilliant
been fantastic.
Start. He's been
and
amazing.
honestly, for years, I think Yuri has been past it. I think if he doesn't win that World Cup with France, I think he ends up leaving Tottenham a lot sooner than he does. I don't think he let in a lot of questionable goals in the
towards the last 3 to 4. There were a lot. His reflexes, I don't think ever went away, but close range saves and decision making playing out of the back was brutal towards the end of his career.
It was bad.
Club legend, so I don't want to talk bad on him, but if you were watching, it's a fact he didn't play well towards the end of the season.
100%. And Vicario's been so calm on the ball. His reaction saves are incredible. I think there's been a couple times where I've been like, maybe he could have saved that, but he's made up for it plenty, and a huge reason Tottenham is where they are.
I completely agree. No, I feel like we should go position for position now.
Okay.
All right. In goal, I'm glad you went there because I went Martinez for Aston Villa.
Really?
The only reason I didn't go Vicario, I completely agree with your pick and won't argue on it, is because I didn't want to seem too biased in the rest of my team. What are we, in 5th place as of right now? And I can't have half the squad being Tottenham players if we're only in 5th place for my team of the half season. So I went Martinez. Villa's sitting in 3rd place right now off of 2 wins on the spin against City and Tottenham. And I think he plays a big part in it. His shot saving's good. I'm not sure he does anything great. His shot saving good.
I'm a Martinez hater. I'm going to be honest. I think he's the most overrated goalkeeper in the world.
Okay.
He gets in guys' faces. He's a great protagonist. People like to root for him. But I think there's way too many goals where it's like, how did that go in? I think his ball playing ability is well overrated. And the fact that he's a good penalty saver is why people think he's so good. And that is honestly one of the most useless things to have.
No, that's fine because it's a crapshoot. You either guess the right way or you don't.
Correct.
My thing is he's a great leader. And in a relatively young side, I think that's important. He brings some experience and his confidence. I think Pau Torres has brought a lot to that.
Yeah.
But 3rd place. And when I looked through the Villa side, what has gotten them to 3rd place? I don't know if he screams out at you, but I think overall it's a good team.
He stuck it out there. I feel like they brought him in. He was like shitting on Arsenal, being like Aston Villa are better than Arsenal. That's why I'm going there. Then it kind of blew up in his face with Gerrard and kind of a disaster. They almost got relegated. I think that was here before he got there, but they were not one of the better teams. And Emery's got them playing great ball, and he's a big part of it.
And just watching them over the past few games, the defense, as it's confusing because they've been good, but it's also so suspect in the sense that they're kind of leaky. And the fact that they don't have that many goals conceded and they are 3rd in the Premier League, I think does say a good amount about how his shot stopping has been thus far this season.
It also speaks a lot to Unai Emery ball. And I have a friend who's an Aston Villa fan. And he honestly, I didn't take much for me to say for him to agree with me, being like, even the Arsenal win was almost completely lucky. Odegaard missed one right in front of the goal. There was kind of a questionable right call, but we kind of scored at the end. They are going to get beat in transition. They're not willing to, I see Emery as a more tactical Ange, but in the way that Ange is he's going to play Emery ball and it's going to work. And it's not going to work. I feel like Arteta, who is actually seen as someone who's more stubborn than those two guys, is actually not and is willing to play to the strengths and weaknesses of his opposition more. But just because he comes off as a stubborn personality, it's a different conversation.
He does come off stubborn. But we'll move on. I'm more than happy to move on with Vicario.
Perfect. All right. Right back, I think we're going to have the same person. It's got to be Trent Alexander-Arnold. He has been at his best. They're finally allowing him to drift more inward, find more space in the half spaces, deliver crosses, shots from the areas where he's best. He's got 2 goals and 2 assists already. He's in the 99% percentile of fullbacks for chances created. He's doing what he does best. I don't mind the defensive liability that he is because that's the modern fullback in a lot of ways. And so, to me, when Trent's at his best, he's the best right back in the world, and he will go down as the best right back in Premier League history.
That's a huge take, which I think Kyle Walker and what he's done, his longevity in the Premier League and what he did on that Tottenham side when they were so good, and then now what he's done for City, I think it would be tough for Trent to overtake him. That's 1. 2, I don't think you can get over the leakiness and his ineptitude in defense because Liverpool is so good in defense, and the fact that most of their goals are conceded through him either falling asleep or mistakes.
Yeah, I mean, he has been dribbled past more than any defender in the Premier League. That's 30 times.
So for me, while it is a trade-off and that most people will take, I would even take it. I personally put Pedro Porro. And I don't think this is a biased take. For me, it was between him, Trippier, and...
Honestly, I was going to have Trippier until the absolute disaster he had against Everton.
He had more of a disaster against Tottenham.
Yeah, and Tottenham too, but I was doing this just before the
so
game.
Trippier, he was probably it until the last 2 performances. Pedro Porro, the way Son made Trippier look on, this will be 2 weeks now. Pedro Porro, did you see the ball he played to Richarlison over the top?
No, I did not.
It was one of the most beautiful balls I've ever seen. I non-biasedly, I think he's been the best right back in the Premier League because he's made such a leap defensively. Originally, we didn't want to play him in this Ange style because we didn't think that he would be able to defend. He's been able to defend extremely well to everyone's surprise. So I put him at right back. And I think over the entire season, he'll show consistently in the Ange system, the way they come inverted, almost playing center, attacking mid at a point. I think he's been the best right back so far.
All right, I mean, Tottenham are playing great, and when they've been healthy, their players, as much as it pains me to say, have been excellent. And I think Pedro Porro has been good. He probably would have had him 3rd or 4th so far this season. So I think that's
I just
fair.
can't get over Trent's defensive, how poor he is in defense.
Yeah, I understand that. I personally I think it also comes from a state of the team that I watch where it's we're not defending with 4 defenders. We're defending with 3 defenders. And if one of those defenders is at Trent Alexander-Arnold, who's really the 4th extra man, then I'm not going to mind his defensive weaknesses.
That's fair.
All right, center backs. Let's go both at the same. I'm going to say both of my center backs. And I think this is pretty uniform. I mean, I think William Saliba is the best center back in the Premier League. I think that's not biased at all. I think he's a top 3 center back in the world, if not the best. The other center back I went with is Van Dijk. And I think it's actually interesting because I would say going into this year, I thought Van Dijk was on a steep downward. After coming back from the ACL, he had lost a step. He was not closing down the way he used to be. He went, 34 matches without getting dribbled past or 38 matches without getting dribbled past. And then last year, he was dribbled past quite a few times. But he's really learned how to adapt his game to that little bit of loss of speed. He's still pinging diagonals as well as anyone. And he's actually been quite effective in the box winning aerial duels offensively as well. So, I mean, I think Saliba and Van Dijk, number 1, would be an unbelievable center back pairing to watch together.
That's for sure.
But yeah, that's who I've got. Who do you got? Same?
Exact same. And Saliba, I don't know how he hasn't gotten into the French side.
To me, it's the same thing as Southgate, where it's how is he still playing Maguire and whoever when Maguire doesn't start? Varane still starts for France a lot of the time. That doesn't make any sense. But I also
do, to that point, and this is off topic, but I do think there are people who mentally just click something once they're in the international camp and they just feel
for sure
different.
And I think Maguire's good.
Yeah, Maguire's actually been playing well for United of
until
late.
The Bournemouth
and I think Saliba, I think Varane plays well and can turn that same knob when he gets into the French camp. But anyways, Saliba, I completely agree. I think it's questionable if he's the best center back in the Prem right now with the way Van Dijk's playing. I had the exact same thing post ACL injury.
Yeah.
There were question marks. He was going on a decline. I was the king of saying he's fully regressing, and Liverpool is going to have to make big changes. Potentially.
Going into this year, I thought there was a chance Virgil van Dijk would not be in the starting 11 by the end of the season if they were going to be having a successul year. But he's totally turned it around.
Yeah, he's turned it around. He looks healthy. He, like you said, he lost a step, and he's adapted to it. I have the exact same two center backs.
I mean, and the two of them together would be so much fun to watch. I mean,
insane.
nobody, first of all, the two calmest center backs on the ball,
Yeah.
and nobody would get by them.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Left back, I kind of cheated on left back. I went with a guy who plays some at left back and some at some, but I couldn't not include him because I think in the last 18 months, he's been like the most underrated defender in the world, and that's Nathan Ake. He is one of one defenders I've ever seen completely shut down Bukayo Saka in back-to-back matches. He is fucking so fast and strong. He is so calm, and he actually does a pretty good job for a not natural left back when he gets forward. I mean, he scored a wonderful goal against us last year, but he's been great this year. I think he's shown how good he is by the fact that Gvardiol, who everyone thought was going to walk into this side, is like not been great in comparison. And Nathan Ake just doesn't get his flowers. I mean, people talk about Ruben Diaz as if he's Nathan Ake is the best defender in that team, maybe aside from John Stones and Kyle Walker. I mean, obviously,
it's probably
Stones
is so tough to.
Stones is literally plays midfield now.
It's so tough to bucket.
Yeah,
it's so tough to do these with City players because you could call Stones a center back or a 6.
Right.
You could call Walker a center back or a right back. Ake, same thing.
And Gvardiol the same.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Even Akanji, since Stones is hurt, has stepped in and played that midfield role alongside Rodri. So.
And even with the way they've been playing lately, like when they play Grealish out left, he almost to me plays more like a left wing back. He's so close to the touchline and is never really running at defenders that often. It's usually whoever's playing either the 10 or the 8 is making the runs into that left-sided pocket. But I had Destiny Udogie, and I think it's a huge reason why when we were healthy we started so well is because the key to Ange's system is those two fullbacks going into those almost center attacking mid pockets, and Maddison was dropping deep, and the fact that he was able to do that and at such a high level, it's easier, I think, for Porro because he has Kulusevski on the right side, who's a little bit better. He was working with Richarlison out on the left, and I think similar to Porro, the same thing with Udogie, people wondered about his defending. He's played himself into the Italian national side. He's a starting left back for Italy as of right now. And I don't mind the Ake one because he just didn't originally come to my mind when I was thinking left backs. And I was going to go with Stupinian because when he's played, he's been great, but he's been injured like almost half the season at this point.
Yep.
So I went Udogie, but Ake is a really good shout. It just didn't. It was like the people that come to mind: Robertson, Luke Shaw, and Udogie. I just didn't think of Ake, but that's a pretty good shout.
Yeah, no, I mean Udogie's been awesome. I was excited. Like he's actually one Tottenham player I was excited to watch this year, which I'm very rarely gonna say about Tottenham players, but like I've watched a lot of him in Serie A, and just like he's a fascinating player to me. I think there's a lot to be learned there defensively for him still. I think he succeeds a lot for Italy because they more often than not are playing that back 5. He has a little bit less responsibility defensively.
Yeah.
But I mean,
he also makes up for.
I'm being a hypocrite also because I'm saying
right, exactly.
Under Arnold,
no, that's
right?
fair, but no, it's a fair point because that's why I discern Alexander Arnold. I think he's making up for some mental lapses and being just a young player in general.
No, for sure. I mean, he's obviously made a couple of mistakes.
He's making up for a lot of it with his athleticism. Like he's probably out of place. And then similar to how Kyle Walker does it, even though he's 30, whatever,
right.
He still has those lapses, but makes up with it in his athleticism.
I mean, his recovery speed
Udogie has been doing the same, but there are times where it's like, the ball's on the left side, it's cut back, and you need to be tracking the guy who's coming to the top box, and he's not doing it. So mentally, there's ways to go, but yeah,
for sure. Midfield wise, what did you do? I went a defensive midfielder.
I kind of cheated. I did probably 2 DMs and a center attacking mid, but
I kind of did the same, but like I kind of made the second defensive midfield. Well, both defensive midfielders can play as a 6 or an 8, so that's
sure that works.
All right, so. I think
you're going to go Declan Rice and you don't need to explain.
It's Declan Rice. He's the best 6 in the world.
It's Declan Rice and the things he's been doing.
He's better than Rodri. I'm not there's not a debate.
The only reason I wrote down.
You put down Rodri. You're a Tottenham fan.
I wrote down Rice.
You put down him.
I wrote down Rice, but Rodri.
Okay.
Rice is the best and has been the best in the Premier League. I mean, defensively, organizationally, passing, and then the fact that he saved Arsenal on countless times, like
2 game-winning goals
is insane.
in the 90th
is insane,
minute.
and I'm not taking anything away from it as a Tottenham fan.
The third goal, by the way, was the Chelsea goal from like near
Yeah.
halfway, which got us back in the match
and
as well.
so going from West Ham, another North London rival, to Arsenal, like I just respect him. He's a pure engine, but he also has the passing, and he's amazing. The only reason I put Rodri is because the stats of when Rodri plays and doesn't play for City is genuinely mind-blowing.
Well, there's only those stats because he's getting suspended versus Declan Rice, who hasn't been suspended.
I mean, that's one time. But nonetheless,
What do you mean?
this
He
has
got
been
a
going
red
on for
card
3 years.
suspension.
This
He
has been
missed
going on for 3 years that when he's not in the side, they are, I mean, the biggest mistake, in my opinion, I mean, I don't know how far back it goes in terms of Pep, but to my knowledge, his biggest mistake was overthinking it in the Champions League final against Chelsea. He didn't put Rodri in the side. They obviously lost that Champions League final. And then
It's crazy that he thought that starting lineup.
And then you go to the next
so
Champions
crazy.
League and he scores the game winner. But that's obviously a very small sample size.
You know
for
what's
the most
funny about
important
Rodri
games.
that's similar to Rice? They both seemingly pop up and score massive goals.
They're both fantastic. And
The reason, I'm going to say the reason Rice has Rodri is transition. Rodri is actually so weak in transition. Yeah. And Declan Rice is not only have incredible recovery speed, but he's not super aggressive in transition, which I think has been the biggest difference this year and why our spine has been so excellent. We have the most errors leading to goal, yet the fewest goals conceded in the Premier League, which speaks
says a lot. Yeah.
insane amounts. And like the difference between him and Partey is like Partey is going to offer both a little bit more going forward with like his vertical passing, his aggressiveness, but that also takes away defensively when he is overly aggressive as a 6. People kind of forget this because like you think of Simeone and Atletico Madrid as a super defensive side, but Partey was never a lone 6 in that side. Him and Rodri played alongside each other a lot as like a double pivot. And so when he first came to Arsenal, he had to learn how to have the responsibility of a lone 6. I mean, that's the most responsibility on the pitch.
Yeah.
And like as much as he learned it and has been fantastic for us at times, like Declan Rice has got that instilled in his fucking brain.
Yeah, at the 6, you want to be, but everything in the back of your mind needs to be like, if this pass goes awry, if it gets stolen, where do you
And it's
need
also
to be
on the ball. Like,
positioning-wise?
if you're going to make this pass, what's the risk if this pass
Exactly.
doesn't succeed?
No.
Because now you're out of position. And that's what Thomas, like, a couple of goals last year, just off the top of my head, like when Rashford scored that screamer against us, like, that was just simply Partey making a bad pass, then being caught in a situation where he had to try and dive in and make a tackle on Rashford, who went right around him and scored. Like, Rice doesn't make that mistake.
I'm not taking. My answer is Rice, but I wanted to give Rodri his flowers to.
And you wanted to have this discussion about it.
Of course.
So-
And there's so many people in the City side who get so much of the attention or the praise when they're playing well. And it's surfaced itself recently because it's happened more often than that he hasn't been in the side. But if you look over the course of 3 or 4 years when he's not in the side, the difference in the results is almost mind-boggling. And I just look towards the 2 Champions League finals.
Who will have a bigger legacy in the Premier League when it's all said and done, Rodri or Declan Rice? I think
it's tough because people from England, it's weird because they hate on the English players the most, but they also want to give them the most praise when they're the best.
Correct.
So I think people will try and push a Rice agenda, but pure accomplishment-wise, as of right now, you have to go Rodri, and I don't see...
No, right now, it's definitely Rodri.
Of course. I don't see the future, or maybe I don't want to see the future where Arsenal becomes as dominant as City.
That's why I asked you the question.
So... as of right now, and my answer will be for the future, I'm going Rodri just because I don't see Arsenal taking, especially with the squad they have right now, which we'll get into later, I don't see him being able to build that legacy, although player for player in a vacuum, can I see him? Potentially.
Yeah, I mean, it's also like his legacy, even if he doesn't do it at Arsenal, like if he were to win a Euros or World Cup with England, like that will change his legacy no matter what.
100%.
And like that's not the conversation.
Yeah.
So, all right, moving
next.
on. This is where I got my Aston Villa player in the side. I went Douglas Luiz. And really?
Douglas Luiz, the most underrated player in the entire Premier League this season, in my opinion.
It's funny. Douglas Luiz, like, I feel like he's been a little inconsistent over the last few years. Like, at times, he's just not really a lone 6. And, like, he's been asked to play that position, especially for, like, when Gerrard tried to play super expansive type of football, like, when they didn't have the squad for it. And he's a little slow. Like, he just can't cover space in the way that a lone 6 needs to. And he is being he's the ideal prototypical Emery midfielder. He is to me, he's like Lucas Torreira, who Emery liked to play so far up the pitch, even though he wasn't actually a lone 6, where it's like, this guy's going to make great defensive actions. He's going to win tons of duels in midfield. And he's also like gonna score some bangers.
Him breaking up play is so important in itself, and if that's all he did, he'd be amazing. The goal contributions he's giving this season
and
to
they're
Villa,
mostly spectacular.
Oh my God,
they're not
is special.
They're incredible range of passing, and I mean he's deadly offset pieces.
How complete of a player he's playing as this season.
Emery's gotten the best out of him.
For me, it was so easy to include him.
Also, him and Declan Rice together would be awesome, and we'll get a little bit to that later.
I mean, just thinking about it, like the state of eights just in the Premier League in general, I just feel like is like low for whatever reason. I don't know why.
I feel like there's 4 or 5 who are literally incredible, and then the rest, it's like it's also to credit some of the lower sides in the league, like experimenting with younger midfielders like Cameron Archer playing as like more of a 10 or advanced 8, and Jacob Ramsey, Aaron Ramsey, Jacob Ramsey's brother. There's just a lot of like young English. Like even like Carney Chukwuemeka, who I'm a huge fan of. I think there's like another level of athletic 8s that's coming along because I feel like for a while, like we thought of the 8 as like a David Silva type player. Right. And like there's a kind of a more lanky.
Pop Sarr.
Yeah.
For Tottenham. He's
like
not in there.
A taller, lankier. That's
coming.
the next generation of 8.
Yeah.
And like I think we're seeing Arteta try that with Havertz right now, where it's like you've got a 6'2" dual winning monster, or he's even taller than that.
Monster.
He's winning more duels than like any midfielder.
Physically, he may be.
That's what I'm saying. Like that's what I mean. Monster physically. That's kind of Arteta's kind of trying this new style of 8. Yeah. Like Matheus Nunes, who City have. He's also that style. Yeah. All right, and then we're gonna have the same attacking midfielder. That's boring. It's James Maddison.
Okay. I was just making sure you didn't want to put because I put Maddison first and then Odegaard because he has been injured for I think so. It was tough to balance.
Same midfield 3. Surprised. I'm surprised you went Rice. Well, I guess you went Rodri, so not really.
I went Rice. I went Rice. He was the first name down, but I wanted to give Rodri his flowers. And then here I put down Maddison and then Odegaard because I wasn't sure what we wanted our sample size to be enough to get them in, but I think he easily did enough, regardless of his injury. I mean,
the injury, if anything, shows how important James Madison is. And
we lost.
Here's the thing with James Madison.
Madison was.
You're also gonna, when you get James Madison, he is going to miss X amount of matches. He's never been healthy for a whole Premier League season. That's just a fact. Some players, though, you just know that, and you have to plan for it.
With our short fixture list, due to us getting out of the cup right away, and then obviously no European football, it would matter. And it does. Oh, we've hit the injury bug like nothing else. I cannot. By the way,
it's inevitable. Every team, no matter how many.
That's something I wanted to talk about later. Is Klopp complaining about the fixture list, and I hate the way he presents it, and I hate him. But he, at this point, you look around the league, Newcastle, all their injuries, Tottenham, United, the amount of injuries that, it hasn't hit you as bad.
We just have a deeper squad than you. It is completely
No, it's true. We don't have a deep enough squad, which was fine originally. Which was fine originally when you think about it with our fixture list. You didn't need it, but now with the injuries,
you always need it.
You always need it. And I think we'll address that in January. A little bit at least. But yeah. All right, same midfield. I love that. I think we'll differ here, though.
I have a feeling you didn't go with the same right winger that I went with.
You went Bukayo Saka.
I went Bukayo Saka. He's the best player in the Premier League right now. He's been the best player in the Premier League.
I don't agree with that at all, actually. I think he, at points in the season, he has, but he also has gone his tendency to go a little bit invisible.
Oh, that's
in
such
some
a bad thing.
You have to be the best. You don't have to be at your best every game, but you have to be consistently solid and a threat. And I think,
how would you consider 5 goals and 6 assists in 15 matches? Would that not be?
No. That's I'm not. I think he's been great. I'm just saying some games he doesn't impose his will, and in a very weak front 3, he's almost forced to do that, which is almost unfair pressure on him due to how average.
What matches has he not imposed his will? Do you have any that you can rip? Like, I'm just wondering.
First off, his splits away from home and home are pretty telling. I don't have the stats on, but I will get the tweet, and it will go up on the screen right now of his splits home and away that I recently saw. I don't know exactly what the stats were, but if the tweet I saw, it was not from a verified source, but I don't think
I don't know that that's true.
All right, well, we'll see when it goes up right now, but I think his splits away from home are not as good as at home. And once again, I think it says more about who he's playing with, that he doesn't have more. I mean, 11 goal contributions is amazing. Trust me, I'm not going away from that. Just to get it out there, I went Mohamed Salah.
I'm sure you did. Mohamed Salah's having a ridiculous season.
They're at the time of recording, they're in first.
Yes.
And Nunez hasn't lit it up. Jota hasn't lit it up.
He has like 11 goals, 7 assists.
Diaz hasn't let it.
Incredible.
Like, you can't not put Salah. And I understand as an Arsenal player, you're going to tell me it's more than the goal contributions.
I mean, yeah, 100%
which it is. But for two teams that their leading player isn't their striker, Bukayo Saka has the most goal contributions on their team. Salah the same for Liverpool. That gives him the edge for me when the right winger is the guy you go to get you those goal contributions and win the game.
Two completely different kind of right wingers. Salah's an inside forward. Bukayo Saka is a true right winger.
No, I understand. But yeah, I went Salah.
Salah's receiving the ball in attacking areas that are much more advanced than when Saka is receiving the ball.
He's building up play, Saka more. No, I get that. I just think Salah, his threat and danger. There's like every single game, it's like, I would be shocked if Salah doesn't score. I don't feel the same way about Saka. And that's because of their positioning, sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think score is the question, right? I agree. I'm not shocked every game Saka doesn't score. When Saka doesn't have a goal contribution, or at least hasn't had a big chance created, which I think also, like, when we put Osimhen in the side in next summer, and Saka has 20 assists next year, you're gonna.
Is that what you think is happening?
Do I think we're going to get Osimhen?
Yeah.
I have some intel that we are definitely...
We
are definitely
in
pole position.
Arsenal sources?
I do have Arsenal sources.
Wow. Look at this guy. I didn't even know that. I don't have Tottenham sources, by the way, so anything I say is bullshit.
No, I mean, listen, my Arsenal sources are like, I would say a 7.5 out of 10, and I only get...
7.5 out of 10?
Well, like, I would say that's how often they're right versus wrong. Like,
I'll take that 10
like,
times
the big
out of 10.
wrong one was, like, I was told in May that both Charlie Patino and Emile Smith-Rowe were not going to be were both going to be sold this summer, and neither were sold. That was a big thing that they got wrong.
I mean, why?
But I knew
the
Rice
SR?
Was done like 2 months before it was done, which a lot of people.
Well,
know.
yeah, I wouldn't. A lot of people.
No, that's what I'm saying.
That,
like I mostly know.
I think Man City was only in it to shoot up the price.
Of course they were.
Yeah.
If Man City wanted to spend 150 million pounds, they would have spent 150 million pounds.
100%. And by the way, all the people. We'll get into this in a later episode about transfers, but all the people, I said this in the summer, all the people who are like, it's an overpay for Rice, it's not a salary capped league. If you need a player that will make the impact that Rice will, everyone knew he would slot in perfectly
my
to the
favorite
side.
thing is
it doesn't matter.
Everyone on Twitter is like, that's too much money. It's not your fucking money.
Right, who cares?
What's the difference?
If the owner wants to spend the money, I do not care.
That just means that they're going to spend the money again in the future.
The
issue is if they spend the money and the
By the way, people, that's too much. You look around the world, the teams who are spending the money it's not a complex 100%. Science what's going on.
If you're a Burnley fan, yes, it's too much when you spend 17 million on James Trafford on a goalkeeper. Yeah. Yes, that's too much money.
All right, yes. Let's not get off topic. Onto the striker. Left wing. No, left wing works for me.
I went Pedro Neto.
This was really tough.
First of all, it was really tough because the left wing position sucks ass.
Sucks.
There's 20 right wingers I tried to fit into left wing, and I did put one in left wing.
I was thinking at the 8 was the second most difficult position in terms of talent across the league. The left wing by far.
I found left back to be challenging, actually.
For me, it was Udogie 10 times out of 10. But
yeah, he didn't
was a
even
great shot.
Consider.
Really? He's been so
good. It's as I said, I was being a hypocrite. His defensive liability is too much for me to.
That's fair.
Because he doesn't offer yet what Alexander-Arnold offers.
No, not yet. Okay. You went Pedro Neto. That's such a good shout. I wanted to include bottom half clubs because I feel like that really goes to show how much your knowledge is. But I also wasn't going to force him in. I think what Doku has done in the City team in how good Grealish was last year. It's like, he finally came into himself for the price. The fact that he came in at the end of the summer, got pretty much no preseason with City, and comes into the side and is immediately producing in the Champions League, which did they need it in that group? They were always going to win the group.
Did you consider Champions League performances when making this?
No.
Okay.
I'm
just wondering.
Overall,
first time we've done it, so
overall, I was just thinking about the fact that he came in with no preseason into a Guardiola side, where a lot of people, it takes a little bit for them to adapt to the squad, and what he did in the Premier League as well, completely taking. By the way, I never thought Grealish was that good. City was just unreal last year, and it's a product of the style that they play that he was going to play well. The way Doku has come in and is able. Grealish isn't beating people one-on-one. He's more intricate in small spaces, maybe. Doku going at right
Well,
backs
that's the thing.
consistently.
That's what City's been missing, right? Like they kind of went from having Sané, Sterling, Mahrez, all these guys who are going to get the ball in space and they're going to drive at you. Whether or not they beat you, just having someone who's going to drive at you changes.
Draw a second defender, 100%.
Then you went to City the first half of last year when they were just kind of receiving the ball out wide and there wasn't any attack, any threat happening. Doku was such a smart signing. Like another one where I feel like people are like 60 million pounds for, yes, he's got a lot of talent, but he's been injured a lot. It's like, you need this type of player. Here's the right profile. Spend the money on the profile. I agree. And no, like I wanted to put Doku in. I think if his final actions had been more decisive so far this year, I think I would have him in.
No, he gets into positions to where if he puts in a better ball, they probably score more goals. But yeah, he in a team that needed a spark, because you look at them now, they need multiple sparks. But a team that needed a spark, I thought he provided it for sure right away. And it's something that if you look at, I mean, you have Ake, but I was going through it. City sit at 4th and how good City are. Me not having a City player, not that it's a requirement to have a City player, but no, I thought he was the correct decision. But Pedro Neto is also
Neto. So I was literally sitting there like, all right, I'm not choosing Doku because I don't think he deserves to be in this team yet. And then I was like, I literally don't have a left winger that I want to put in here. Martinelli's been injured and lacking confidence. Luis Diaz, I think, is
injured and lacking confidence is letting him off extremely.
Wait, no, hold on. Those are two separate thoughts. He was injured.
Sure.
Since he's been back from injury, he's been lacking confidence. He's not being decisive.
Lacking confidence, I feel like, is a way of saying for players who are supposed to be talented and are not performing, you just tell them that they have a lack of confidence. Or Martinelli's just not that good.
Well,
let me just get into it. Martinelli is the most overrated.
Such a bad take.
And I've shared this with him off camera, but I'm going to share it on camera. Martinelli is the most overrated Premier League player right now. First off, I will not let this go, and I'm looking directly into the camera. The assist was an accident. And don't tell me that it was Brazilian flair.
He's done it multiple times this year. It's not an accident.
It was a mistake. And Martinelli is the reason that I thought that Arsenal would regress this season. And it looked like they had, except they're getting all these.
Here we go. You're going to call us lucky now?
They're not lucky because it's just like they aren't getting dominant performances. Whether the performance.
Dominant by what mean?
Whether the performance is dominant, but it doesn't show on the scoreline because the ineptitude of the front three.
Ineptitude's a strong word.
Not ineptitude.
Here's the situation.
Bukayo Saka, world class. After that, Jesus, bang average. Martinelli, bang average. He is. Quick stat at time of recording, Richarlison, who everyone said was the biggest flop in Premier League history, 3 goals, 3 assists this season. Martinelli has 2 goals, 1 assist in 11 appearances, and Jesus has 2 goals, 2 assists. But no one's calling them overrated.
Jesus has got 5 goals in the Champions League. 3 assists.
You just told me we're not talking about Champions League.
I'm just saying, like, well, if you're going to talk about
against the cupcake Champions League.
Sorry, where are you guys in the Champions League?
That's a deflection.
It's not a deflection.
Due to the fact that it's the Champions League. You do your job.
Do you think
Richarlison
is better than Gabriel Jesus? Do you think that?
Tell me why Jesus doesn't start for Brazil.
Because I'll tell you exactly why.
Yeah,
it's a matter of profiles. You have to fit an 11 with
Everyone
the correct
keeps
profiles.
telling me that Jesus doesn't need to have the goal contributions and is perfect for the Arteta side because of the way they play and it doesn't translate to Brazil.
Wait, hold on.
If you're good enough,
he does need to have the goal contributions. The difference between us being first and second are the goal contributions.
If his 2 goals and 2 assists are the difference?
No, I'm saying his lack of goal contributions are the difference between us being in second, which we are right now.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
That goes without saying. But he's in a bad spell of finishing in front of goal, which he has gone through his entire career. But
exactly.
He is. Listen.
Just
listen for a second.
He has class, but his inconsistency will never make him good enough to be the Arsenal number 9 who makes them the title challengers. Challenger, sure. The title champions.
I think you are correct in saying that, and that is why we're going to go after a name like Osimhen. I'm not doubt. I think some of what you said is completely fair. I think Gabriel Jesus took us from a team that struggled to create, struggled to score goals, struggled to consistently produce in front of goal into last year when we got him. The level was raised immediately. There is no question when he stepped his foot into the team. Who do we go from up top? I mean, like Lacazette.
Right.
But I'm just saying, like, the way he can bully defenders, the way he can wriggle around the box, create opportunities. He can score from nothing. That's something we hadn't had in a striker for. I mean, even Aubameyang at his best was a completely different type of striker. He was all finishing, right? So having him, his ability to link up. Martinelli was, had 15 goals last year. I'm not worried about either of the players. They're both fantastic
players. And I don't
players.
want to be the person who you read stats and that's fact. Because in soccer, more than anything,
stats are useless. Goal and assist numbers are pretty much useless.
But there is so much more to it. For the example of the Saka Salah comparison, differently building up play. But it comes to a point strictly about the number 9 position where 4 goal contributions in I think it was 15 appearances in the Premier League.
No, he's missed way more matches.
13?
I would guess closer to 10. He's missed at least 4 weeks, 5 weeks of action. I'm just gonna close this door so it's not so loud.
11 appearances.
Right. 11 appearances, what, 8 starts?
I don't have starts down.
Well, I know for sure he came back from injury twice and didn't start in those matches, so he has no more than 9 starts. No. And again,
so Jesus has 2 goals,
not as
1
all
assist,
or nothing as
2 goals and 1 assist in 11 appearances, and Martinelli has 2 goals and 2 assists in 14 appearances in the Premier League.
Yeah,
it's not good enough.
It's not good enough, and that's why we're in second and not first.
I think we agree,
but I think we disagree on why just because lacking confidence is not an excuse. You ask anybody in any sport when good players are not playing
some of them
because of a lack of confidence.
I think Richarlison was going through the same thing.
Richarlison is potentially one of the most overrated players to ever.
I don't think you can say that. Well, first off, I don't think he's rated very highly. So you can't.
He was when Tottenham purchased Richarlison.
Well, after the World Cup,
he was called the signing of the summer.
No, if you find me one headline that said he was, please, not right now. I'm saying
I will send you.
I would love to put it up right now, and you can put a fucking clown face over me. I don't think anyone has ever said that about Richarlison as the signing of the summer. But if you saw him play in the World Cup and you don't think he has something to him, you're out of your mind.
Do you know what happened? Do you know what historic Richarlison thing happened this Sunday?
What?
He scored his first goal with his feet for Tottenham.
2 of them.
First time. No, he scored with his feet.
He hasn't been good enough.
Any competition.
By the way,
it's
been a huge problem. We've tried this. Names like Vincent Janssen and
big fan.
Llorente was the only one who because he didn't have high expectations, did all right. We brought in 4 or 5 different backup strikers to be Kane's backup, and you don't get the time, and you play behind Kane, and it doesn't give you the confidence, and all of them were absolutely awful. So I don't put great credence to it. And then he was made to play left wing. He's clearly not a winger because Son has been better at striker, but we played this past Sunday with him up top, and we absolutely dominated a battered Newcastle team, but battered Newcastle 4-0. And so,
all right, let's go on.
Let's move. Yes, let's move.
There's only one answer. You're not going to have Erling Haaland. You're going to have Ollie Watkins.
I'm not going to have either. I'm going to have Son.
Okay.
Son.
I think Erling Haaland is just
Haaland objectively.
14 goals and 4 assists.
See, this is where you need to get away from the stats. He has objectively.
I'm all for that.
He has objectively been. The fact that he's been pocketed in some games, absolutely no impact.
And that's not his job because
he doesn't need to. It's been more than Saliba, though. It's been more than Saliba. He's gone invisible in Champions League matches and in Premier League matches. He's not asked to really get involved in the build-up play, whether that's right or wrong.
Well, that's why they brought Alvarez in to fill that number 10 position behind him.
But he just watching, he has not been nearly as good. He's missed clear chances.
But let me ask you this: if you could put any striker into your side right now from the
as of right now on form, I think if you put Son in that City team, he has more goal contributions than Haaland would in the Tottenham team. That's just based off of watching.
Oh, I think
those are probably the 2 teams that I watch most in the Premier League because I'm a Tottenham fan and
it's fun to watch City.
It's fun to watch City, and they're always on. They're always the main slate because it's City. But yeah, I really didn't want you to put in Haaland, but I'm glad you did because we get to talk about it now. I've watched almost every single City game. He's not the same Haaland that he was last year, and the stats showing that he potentially is a lie. And by the way, as a Harry Kane stan, I hated the argument of he has this many goals minus pens. first off, taking pens and scoring them consistently. Pens are part of the game, and if you have someone 100%. Who scores them every single time,
I'm all
it's
for
a
penalty
huge
goals
plus.
counting.
It counts.
You can't say.
But Tottenham got their first penalty last game. Son scores from 10 open play goals and aren't really
tap-ins. That speaks a lot to your style.
No, it speaks a lot to the fact that we've gotten robbed of a few penalty decisions.
Well, aside from, we're not going to get into that.
No,
because
let's not.
I think there's been a lot of complaining about Arsenal and how many penalties they've been given this year. If you control field tilt the way that Arsenal or Man City do, you are going to get more penalties because you're going to have more touches in the box. There's a higher percentage chance of getting tackled in the box. Spurs score a lot from odd man situations, crosses,
quick transition.
One time, transition. And if you look, it's like the same as Aston Villa. Like those types of teams are going to have fewer penalties because.
But there are a few decisions that we obviously don't need to get into that we could have more than one penalty this season. Sure. And the one we got was fairly soft, but I'll take it. I just
think like if Erling Haaland's going to score 38 goals this year, he's the best striker in the Premier League. And I agree, goals and assists are not everything for a striker, but he's the only one who's going to score 35 plus goals in back-to-back seasons in Premier League history. That speaks for itself.
I think
if it was that easy,
I think a lot of City's struggles stem from
how you saw it last year. The first half of the year, they had to adjust. So playing with a striker who wasn't a Gabriel Jesus, who wasn't coming back playing as a false nine, they had to completely change their style. Also, you got to remember they're now been without De Bruyne for a long time.
Yeah.
When you have De Bruyne and Haaland, it's another story.
Well, yes, we'll get because our Premier League predictions are coming later in the video, and we'll get to the impact that De Bruyne is going to make when he gets back. But
of course,
I think this, as a Tottenham fan, this stems back to the argument of when Kane was potentially going to go to City, and then
that would have been unbelievable.
The after fact of talking about who would have been better in that side, Kane and Haaland, and people were like, "Oh, Kane dropping back and picking the ball up would have been bad for the." Harry Kane would have scored 100 goals in a single season on this City side. Harry Kane is.
He would have scored the same amount of goals Haaland scored.
Way more. He is way better of a player. Way better of a player,
but I don't think.
Maybe not last year. Maybe not. Last year, Haaland was
extremely
extremely clinical. This year, I don't see.
But he also had the most big chances missed in the Premier League
last season, and I think he's been. I didn't even know that. And I think he's been. He's got the most this year.
But if you look at the stats every year, who the top 5 leagues, the biggest chances missed,
it's always going to be someone.
It's going to be Haaland, Ronaldo, Messi, Mbappe.
Yeah, of course.
Every year,
and that's part of them. That's part of being the best. Box.
Yeah, it's part of being the best.
No, I agree. But yes. We don't have to get into
like Steph Curry has the most missed threes every year because he takes the most and he makes the most.
Kane, he's doing it at Bayern and he would have done it at a higher rate at City is just what I think. But that is
all right. Those are
our teams.
Did you have any like honorable mentions I didn't make it in that we didn't get to? Because I had a couple.
I gave them to you. I gave you Rodri.
Yeah.
And I think if we needed a certain set of games to be played, I would have put in Odegaard over Madison due to...
Yeah. I said Trippier already, and I said Ollie Watkins. I think Ollie Watkins has been,
he's been great.
Fantastic. My last one was, and he's honestly a player I think is finally kind of getting talked about, and not always necessarily in the nicest light, but Brian Mbeumo for Brentford. Like
the way he's come in, people thought he was just a secondary to
yeah,
Tony,
like he was playing as a secondary striker kind of behind Tony, and the two of them had this thing in transition that was unbelievable. But he's been so good for them this year. He's leading them in goals and assists. I wanted to try and sneak him in at left wing, and I was literally looking at heat maps from all of his matches to see if there was a single match where he played off the left, and he did not.
Yeah.
Pedro Neto had 2. That's why I was able to sneak him in.
Yeah.
But Mbeumo is awesome, and I mean he's a player that surprised like teams aren't going for him because I don't know what he's 24. And I mean, I don't know.
I think people aren't going for him because
people don't think he's 24.
Well, yeah, he looks older.
Literally,
I didn't know he's 24, and it shocked me when you said that.
Well, because
what I think
this is common with soccer players who have left Africa and gone and played, and this is just actually a fact that like they are specifically changing their birth certificates because it makes them more valuable to be sold to move to a And it's happened prior, so I think teams are worried that to spend $80 million on a guy who may be 28, not 24.
Right. I mean, Son got an entire year younger due to South Korean laws. So
huge.
That was great.
Huge.
That was great. But what I think is, and we'll get into this in our transfer episode in a couple weeks, but I think Brentford is going to make a decision of they're not at a point to compete with the top 6. I mean, Chelsea obviously and United where they're at right now, but just in general, the top 6 plus Villa plus Newcastle, I don't think they think they're at a point to compete with that. So I think they'll make a decision to cash in on Tony and keep Mbeumo and try and build like a Brighton situation where you cash in on when you get those guys
I mean,
and then
that
try and build the.
That is what they should be. I mean, if you look at like Southampton did that for such a long time. It's such a exceedingly good rate. They were brilliant at it.
Those Twitter graphics of the Southampton
like
11
the 2014
when it was
like
really
Schneiderlin,
at their peak, and Mane.
Yeah. All right. Predictions for who's going to win.
So on to our predictions. You want me to give you the whole top four? Let's go descending order from 4 down.
So
actually, let's
4
just
up. Like who's going to come in 4th?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So in 4th place. Hold up. Let's redo this because I have it.
All right. In 4th place, I've got Tottenham. And I think that's totally fair. I think that's a incredibly successful first season for Ange. 4th place would be an incredibly successful first season for Ange. I think it's going to be really hard for them to get 4th place, but I'm going to give them the shot at going 4th place, and I'm going to tell you why right now. I think a lot of what Ange's philosophies are fantastic, and I think a lot of it is stupid. You are not going to win the Premier League by simply saying, I'm going to just play attacking football, whether we have 9 men or 11 men, whether we're playing Man City or Sheffield United. You're not going to win like that. But you will win enough points against the lower-sided teams. If you can win all of those points and, scrape a 3-3 against City because Tottenham seemingly have City's number, you're going to get 4th place, and I think if Tottenham can just stay healthy enough, bring in 1 or 2 reinforcements, as you said, we'll talk about in our transfer window episode, but 1 or 2 defensive reinforcements or a midfielder, and they can get through the AFCON time, which will be a little bit tough for them, I like them to come in 4th.
In 4th place, it's funny, I have Arsenal.
That's wild.
So Arsenal is in 2nd right now at the time of recording.
You can genuinely look me in the eye and you think there are 3 teams that are
I don't even think this is a stretch.
I think it's
based
a crazy
off
stretch.
of the.
If we finish below 3rd,
By the way, all the field tilt and Arteta says every single game you guys played better, and whether you want to believe that's true or not, it probably is just based off of all the stats that will tell you it is. If you do not sign someone for that front 3, being a number 9 in January,
which we won't,
which you won't, you will not score because. My whole thing, and I've said this exact quote probably 10 plus times about Arsenal, I think they caught lightning in a bottle with their attacking last season. With all, like how good Martinelli was. Like, I think that was a little bit of just like vibes, genuinely just vibes, and the dressing room and how good they played. And
how can you think Arsenal caught lightning? You're going to put Tottenham above them. Obviously, that's where this is going. We caught lightning in a bottle. You caught literal, not even lightning. It was 8 matches. You played 8 good matches.
But I don't.
We were in first for 260 days. Okay. That's not lightning in a bottle. That's an extended period of time backed by nearly every statistic that there is that you can find on the sport. We are the leaders in field tilt. We are the leaders in expected goals against. We have given up the fewest goals.
Field tilt doesn't win you matches.
It does win you matches. It's exactly the opposite.
Putting the ball in the back of the net is what wins you matches. And
field
Arsenal
tilt guarantees a certain amount of goals.
Once Nkunku is healthy, they have. I would take Tottenham's front 3 over Arsenal's. I would take Chelsea's.
Who's the 3rd in Tottenham's front 3 that you're taking over Arsenal's? I'm just wondering. Kulusevski's son and Brennan Johnson?
Brennan Johnson, probably.
You're taking those 3 over Saka?
I would take City's front 3.
Who's better, Son or Saka?
I would take Liverpool's front 3. I would take...
Who's better, Son or Saka?
Who?
Son or Saka?
Son is.
That's wild.
Right now.
It's not. What is Son better at than Saka other than finishing? Name one specific category that he is better in than Saka other than finishing.
He is his movement in the box. They're different players. Saka doesn't have to move in the box.
Movement specifically, I disagree. In the box,
but to that point, Son is our number 9 right now, so finishing is the most important. And once again, a front 3 that struggles to score goals, having better finishers would be extremely important to this team.
We are going to sign a huge number 9 in the summer. There's no doubt about that.
Right, and I think if there's any year to go and win the Premier League, it's this year, and not signing a 9 in the January transfer window is a massive botch because City didn't do insane business. Like, you think about it, and they probably did how much Vardiol cost. And
they brought in Vardiol, Doku, Nunez, and Kovacic. I think they did pretty insane fucking business. But for them,
is it like that insane? They will bring in more reinforcements next season. Do you agree?
Of course they will.
Right.
Holland might leave.
Liverpool didn't get their 6, which I think they'll address in January.
Well, they got Bisetic, or whatever you pronounce his name, that young kid who's nasty.
Yes.
I mean, Liverpool brought in 3 new midfielders. These teams all made plenty.
Okay, you have Tottenham at 4. I have Arsenal at 4 because I don't think they will score enough goals that takes you, as well as in a, like, Trossard is arguably your best attacker outside of Saka.
He's our best finisher. He's not our best attacker.
Right. I think
Those
he
are not
should.
the same thing.
No, they're not. But once again, in a team that doesn't have a finisher, I would play Trossard.
Would you place $100 on who will finish higher, Tottenham or Arsenal?
If
you're saying, I assume Tottenham's higher on your list.
if I had a more concise window on when James Maddison is coming back, I would shake. Let's revisit that exact thing in, let's say, 2 weeks to a month. How about
nothing to do with Tottenham? I will bet you $100 that Arsenal finish in the top 3.
Well, it's contingent on Tottenham. As soon as we get,
so you don't think? So
as soon
you're
as we
confident Tottenham is finishing above Newcastle, Manchester United?
Yeah. Oh, I mean Manchester United. Don't get
They're
me
only
started.
3 points ahead of Manchester United.
No, I understand, but
I'm just saying
that's also Manchester United. People want to complain about the injury bug, and yes, it's happened more to them defensively, but like I've said from the start, their midfield and their attack is not good enough. I also said Højlund would not hit the ground running. He's very young. He came from the Serie A. He was not, especially
100%.
surrounded by that front three outside of Bruno, who's really like. He's not
not
great in the build-up play.
No access to the central areas.
He needs service.
Yeah.
And, talk about losing confidence. Marcus Rashford, the way he's playing right now.
But you're allowed to say he's lost confidence. Just so we're clear, it only applies to Arsenal
Rashford
players.
has done it in a longer sample size to show you what
because he's older?
Sure.
Okay.
But he has more of a sample size that shows you Martinelli hasn't consistently been doing it for long enough to say we can point to A, B, and C.
Martinelli was exceedingly consistent up until about 8 of the matches this year.
So I have Arsenal at 4.
Okay.
And 3, we will revisit that bet.
Okay.
Once I get a clearer, because people are saying between 2 to 4 months. That's a big difference. If we don't have Maddison for an extra 2 months, yes, we will not finish in that spot.
All right. 3, I've got Liverpool. I think until they've gotten, I think that this is, people are going to say I'm being a hypocrite. But Liverpool actually have gotten a little bit lucky. They have... No.
I wasn't going to stop you because you're allowed to be a hypocrite like you were with Trent and Udogie, but with this, nobody has gotten luckier with the results than Arsenal.
I don't consider results backed by statistic, even if the goals come late, to be lucky. Do you count NFL victories that end on a field goal by the better team a lucky win?
I mean, you got to watch the whole sample size of the game,
sure.
which is
That's
to
what I'm
your
saying.
point, but it
winning
is harder.
Is winning.
Yes,
and
winning,
if the statistics,
I just think eventually it'll run out for Arsenal.
There hasn't been a match that we have won in which we have not dominated field till by over 65%. We are the best next.
Don't you think some teams are taking the strategy and it has
our goalkeeping has been some of the worst in the league?
Oh, it's awful. But don't you think some people are taking the kind of strategy where it's like force these attackers to make something out of nothing?
Everyone sits in a low block. Yeah,
that's why you win field tilt. And it's partly
how did
to
Man
your
City
tactics.
win the last 4 titles?
But their quality in their team is
But their quality
so
in front
much
of goal
better.
before Haaland was not much different. It wasn't.
But Odegaard isn't De Bruyne. That's the difference. Because De Bruyne will put it in a position to where if you're a professional...
Odegaard's not De Bruyne, but he's not playing the same role.
Sure. But I'm saying in the sense of you're saying the attackers who aren't deadly, he put it in a position to where if you're a professional footballer, you can't miss it.
Here's my belief. I think everyone likes to say Arsenal being lucky, they'll revert to the mean. But how about the fact about all the statistics when we're on this side of it, those aren't going to revert to the mean. Only the ones that we're being lucky and are going to revert to the mean. The fact that our finishing is below on our XG, we're not converting at a high enough rate.
That's XG across chances versus all players. I think you have below average players. So I think if you look at actually the Arsenal XG with those players, it would be more accurate because I don't expect them to finish those goals.
Well, it's not a subjective thing. It's a statistic.
I understand.
Point, at a certain
but I'm
action,
saying it's an XG versus goal. Like some average AI player is what the expected goal. That position, that shot, in that type of the game, with that is what it is.
If you see some of the misses, they're on
shot,
open nets from 8 yards out.
Finishing is finishing.
But I believe we'll revert to the mean in both ways. Anyway, I have Liverpool third. I think Alisson's bailed them out quite a bit. I think they've scored a lot of late goals. And I think their lack of... they're one midfielder going down away from being in big trouble.
That's fair. All right. At number 3, I put Tottenham. I think, the best thing... So, as I've touched on, depending on Maddison's availability, originally it was a 2-month thing. He'll be back around late January, early Feb. Now it could be 4 months. That's a big decider, but I'm going to choose to think optimism because if I'm not, I'll just get sad.
Understood.
And I think due to AFCON, we lose Sar and Basuma, which is our heart of our midfield. We'll be forced to sign a center midfielder, which I think will be big for us.
I do too.
So I think we'll bring in a center midfielder. I think Calvin Phillips will end up going to Newcastle, but we're being talked about in the Calvin Phillips race because I think he's a lock to leave based off of Pep's last comments on him.
100%.
But I think we'll be forced to sign a center midfielder. And then for the time being, Kulusevski has been great inside. And then you could play Son, Brennan, and Richie as the front three. And then Lo Celso is a quality player. He starts for Argentina. He's a World Cup winner. And then you bring in someone to take the Basuma role while he's at AFCON, whoever that ends up being. I think we'll be forced to do that. And then once Van de Ven comes back, that's who I should have given an honorable mention to.
I was going to give him an honorable mention, but
if he didn't get injured also, I know he played the same amount of matches as Madison and he got in, but I didn't think putting him in over Saliba was fair just yet because you need to see that whole sample size from a young player who hasn't been in the Prem yet.
Played mostly like the bottom 4 teams, like in the matches he played.
Sure.
There just isn't a big enough
But just based off of what you saw,
he's been great.
He could be.
So, I think he's been great.
So I think when Van de Ven comes back, we had one of the best defenses when we had that 4 of Porro, Udogie, Romero, and Van de Ven. So that's why I think over the entire slate of the season, and I actually think Arsenal has the potential to make some sort of run because of how deep your squad is in so many different things. And once again, we could go out in the FA Cup also and then only have the Prem. I think due to Liverpool will have a similar situation with the Europa League and the amount of matches as Arsenal. And I think that's where we have a small advantage is we will have 1 game a week for the rest of the season. And if we get healthy, there's no reason in my head that it won't look as it did at the start of the season. And I think we're holding on close enough to the top 4, to that 3rd position until we get our reinforcements.
All right. I mean, I think they'll come in 4th. We're not far off.
No,
I think you're looking at the most optimistic lens.
Sure.
I'm looking at a little bit more realistic lens. Second, I've got City.
And you have Arsenal winning it all.
I have Arsenal winning the title, yeah.
Okay. I have Liverpool in 2nd. So to your point, I think Klopp hates January transfers, but due to his comments, I think he's almost behind the scenes. 1, that's how he feels. But 2, putting a little bit of pressure on that we need to bring reinforcements in January. They obviously were in for Lavia and Caicedo. I think they'll sign a 6, which they absolutely need to.
Transfer window, and I got him.
They have to sign a 6, and I think they actually will, which allows McAllister to play in the 8. I've said from the start he's not the 6. Got exposed at the 6 multiple times. Have played Endo's solid, but if you want to win the title, like a Rodri or a Rice, you need the elite level 6, as you can see, is a huge difference.
Of course.
Basuma was unreal at the 6 for us. And so I think they'll bring in a 6, and then I think they'll bring in center back depth because they're one Van Dijk injury away.
They lost Matip for the season.
And they're one Van Dijk injury away from finishing maybe 10th in the table. It could get that bad. So I actually think they'll bring in reinforcements. And if they don't at the 6, I will have to go back because then I think everyone slides up. But I think them in 2nd with the depth they have in the attack. I think Nunez is starting to play better. Obviously, Salah. I'm a fan of Jota. I'm a fan of Luis Diaz. I think they will score enough goals, and if they bring in a 6, we'll get that structure to where they won't concede. And obviously, they have the best goalkeeper in the Premier League.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think the fact that they're playing Europa League versus Champions League makes it a lot harder in the run-in. If you're playing on Thursday nights, Sunday, I watched 6 years straight of Europa League.
Yeah, me too.
It's tough.
They aren't playing their main guys though. Granted,
they eventually you get to a certain point where you have to if you want to win. And I mean, Klopp's not going to not go for it.
100%.
I think the injuries will start to mount up. I just think it's hard to go on a title push in the Europa League. I think it's much harder than the Champions League. I just do.
I mean, balancing quality and timing of games, yes.
But like if you're playing Tuesday, when that extra 24 hours and not playing every Thursday, Sunday, and then when you play every Thursday, Sunday, you end up playing a lot of Sunday night football.
Playing Fiorentina versus Real Madrid.
I mean, an away day in Europe is an away day in Europe.
That's for sure.
All right, and then first I've got Arsenal.
Can you think you will regress to the mean in the fact that those front 3 will be scoring the amount of goals that it will take to win the title?
Martinelli will get back to where he was. I'm not worried about him long term. I think right now he's in a rut, but this has happened, actually, people forget last year, and then he went on a run. I think it was like 7 goals in 9 matches with 3 assists. He will get back to his best. People are forgetting, like, Jurrien Timber was one of the main people we added this summer.
I had him in my top 10 summer signings.
I mean, he would have been the signing of the summer. We would be absolutely flying at a different level right now. If
When's he coming back?
I mean, they say he's back running already, which is crazy from an ACL. I mean, I think a realistic timeline is he is playing a full 90 minutes at some point in March. So that's still 2 months away.
Yeah.
2 months after January.
Yeah. How much of a...
Okay, hold on.
How much of an impact
I think if he comes back,
I
think Thomas Partey comes back. I think Havertz is finally at his best. I think Odegaard is getting back to his best right now. Saka is finally healthy. I mean, he was not healthy for the first 2 months of the year. Jesus, if he stays healthy, like, I think we're so much deeper than we were. Like, we saw Smith Rowe's not back yet. Like, Smith Rowe's coming back. There are a lot of people coming back who can score goals. I don't know if Smith Rowe
moves the needle. Depth-wise,
but
sure.
You talk about scoring goals. That guy outscores his XG like a Son or a Harry Kane. Not at that level, but he's that kind of finisher.
Yeah.
That's the kind of thing Arsenal's missing. Like, Trossard is that kind of finisher.
But you don't play him.
Yeah, I mean, I think Arteta's tried to figure out what to do with Trossard. He's tried to play him as a left 8 a few times. He's just not good enough in midfield. Like, everyone wants to call him, you're not on Arsenal Twitter, but everyone on Arsenal Twitter wants to call him Santi Cazorla because he's 5'6" and he's nifty with his feet.
Yeah.
Santi Cazorla was one of the best duel winners
he's great.
that the Premier League saw. That guy would win a duel and he'd be up the pitch in a second. Trossard isn't that type of player. He's an attacker. He's always been an attacker. I think Arsenal. I think the league is in a place where, with Arsenal's spine, with the way Saliba and Rice and Saka as that spine play, if the goalkeeping can regress to the mean, I mean, our goalkeepers can't keep fucking shit out, and like, I don't think they're great, but they're not that bad. I think Arsenal win the title with like 92 points.
Yeah, I can't see Arsenal winning the league just because I don't trust.
Yeah, I mean, your vision of our attacking 3 is the most pessimistic of vision, and it's you have reason, which is fine, but I think it's way overly dramatic. I think you're looking at it in a very small lens versus looking at the players and the profiles themselves and the things that they've done together. Instead of, like, you're taking the good things as lightning in a bottle and the bad things as the overall, instead of kind of weighing them evenly, which I think is preventing you from seeing the vision. But also, I wouldn't see the same with Tottenham, so I can't.
If the vision ends up being there, I will open my eyes and allow it to come in. As of right now, I'm not seeing it.
Okay.
And for that reason, I have City in first. I think it'll be tight between Liverpool and City.
I think it'll be tight between all 3, by the way. I think it's something like 92, 90, 88.
Yeah, so I have City because Kevin De Bruyne is the best player in the Premier League when healthy. And he has been, I think, outside of Harry Kane. I think he's even better than Kane for the past, 4 or 5 years. And when he comes back, people don't understand how much of a difference. I mean, I think people actually do understand. And if City can just keep it together until he gets back, that'll be huge. John Stones getting back consistently into that role will be big for them because they've been leaking goals. And
we haven't even talked about the Haaland injury. I mean, it doesn't seem like it's serious, but if that guy's out for 3 months, they're in big trouble.
Oh yeah, that's for sure. Yeah, and I think I think they will sign. I think they have business to do because I think getting rid of Mahrez, they haven't really gotten a replacement there. I think they should look at some sort of right winger, potentially Olise. I know they were interested in
I can't stay healthy either
over the summer. Yeah, but if someone who can take on but also be extremely creative, like a Mahrez type, I think will be huge for them. But I think the biggest miss is Gundogan. I mean, they are missing him to an insane degree. Even when De Bruyne comes back, I think that will be enough to lift them up because I don't think Liverpool or Arsenal, I think if Arsenal had a number 9, a true number 9, that would be the difference. But I don't think Arsenal or Liverpool have done the business to take them to that next level to where if City get De Bruyne back and he's fit for the rest of the half of the season, for most of it at least, I think that'll be enough to take them over.
100%. I mean, I think all 3, Arsenal, City, and Liverpool, like, we're talking fractional margins here, a lot based off of injury availability, competitions that you're still in. I think the needle is swaying here between, they're going to all finish within 8 points of each other, in my opinion. So
yeah, that's fair. And yeah, the last thing is, I think naturally when you win so much, not that you get bored, but like for these other teams who haven't won in a while, like there is.
Well, that's my feeling with Arsenal. Arsenal are gonna like.
There's a tad bit of hunger there with other teams, and then when Man City they easily got into the knockouts of the Champions League, and they'll turn it on. Not that it wasn't on in the Champions League, and then in the Premier League, they're like, oh, it's time to turn it on. We have De Bruyne back.
They're gonna win 13 in a row.
They might just flick a switch where it's like we were a little bored.
And can I just tell you
Grealish is still drunk
the
from the
entirety
summer.
of last year. We had that lead in the title race. I told everyone who was not an Arsenal fan, who was an Arsenal fan, we are not going to win the title.
Yeah.
City are going to go on a run. We're not going to be able to withstand.
It's just inevitable.
It is inevitable.
If they bring
the only difference in this year to me is this exact team has gone through this.
Right.
They know what the title
and
chase.
Knock on wood, hopefully Saliba stays healthy this time.
If Saliba stays healthy last year,
that's a big if, but like you obviously see the breakdown happened. It was correlated. Obviously.
I mean, it was more than it was the reason.
Yes.
I mean, Rob Holding has not played a minute for Crystal Palace.
Yeah.
He was starting every day.
I'm with you. There's a good chance they win, but
title chase.
City is City, and
of course,
I think they will just be like, all right, let's just go win another one.
Yeah,
let's just do it.
Probably. I mean, I think.
If you guys signed an Osimhen or an Ivan Toney or someone at the number 9, I would probably have you winning the title, but I don't think you find enough goals over the rest of the season that take you over the likes of a City.
We shall see. All right, combined 11 now for the Arsenal-Liverpool match. This is an absolutely massive match in the title race. I mean, Liverpool a point ahead. Alisson in goal, I think that's an obvious one.
I
don't think we need to talk much about that. Trent at right back?
Trent at right back.
Yes. Saliba and Van Dijk center back pairing.
Easy.
This is actually now where here's my thing with combined 11s. Are you looking for the best player in that position, or are you looking to make the dynamics of the team work? Because I'd like to take Zinchenko. I think he's a better left back in the modern Premier League. Like I like to have my left back inverted.
Us trying to say like we're some tactical geniuses that like we know
you can't play Zinchenko and Trent together. That doesn't work.
This would fit better. Like I would stick to the better player. I think it's Robertson.
Yeah, Robertson. If Tomiyasu was fit, I would take Tomiyasu, but Robertson.
He's not as good as he obviously used to be in those Liverpool title winning squads.
That one title they won, yeah.
Well, champion, the way that those wingbacks were playing.
I just think that team is spoken about like it's the greatest Premier League team ever. They won one title.
No, I know, but I mean, winning a Champions League, it's
great for the Champions League history. Great.
I'm going Robertson. I don't think now if Timber was fit, then it's a whole different discussion.
Well, yeah. I mean, I truly can't tell you how much I cannot wait for Jurriën Timber to be back.
I just hope. I mean, modern medicine is a great thing, but ACLs have been a problem for people coming. But he's young, and fingers crossed. Even as an Arsenal player, I hope he comes back healthy.
Appreciate it. All right, midfield, Rice.
I mean, the Liverpool's biggest issue is
the six. That's a no-brainer. All right, my other two, I've got Odegaard and Szoboszlai.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, I thought
because I think between the two, they're both capable. You might be a little leaky.
Honestly,
but
like
Rice
Odegaard has played a lot deeper this year.
And I think Szoboszlai can also play a little deeper if you really wanted him to. So I think they would actually, as I was just saying, we're not qualified to give tactical
but we will
position.
Anyway.
Yeah,
yes.
Tactical positioning. But I think they actually could work if you needed them to. Too. And they play such different play styles that I think they would actually be relatively dynamic together.
I think
that
would be
a pretty
fantastic.
good combination.
To me, Szoboszlai is like exactly what Arteta wants in Havertz long term, where it's like deadly finishing action, able to cover a good amount of space, pretty athletic, rather big frame for a midfielder.
And he'll also run at you.
Yeah.
He will take
I mean, if you've watched Havertz the last few matches, he has started to run at people, and it's made a huge difference. I mean, when you have a guy that size running at you, it's a different story.
If Havertz ends up putting it all together, which we know is there, but at this point you start to question it, then
he's been great the last month.
I think Arsenal fans lowered the bar a lot so that once he started playing well, you could call him great.
Shit.
Havertz has not been great.
The last 5 matches, he's been great.
Okay,
he's been great.
You're more.
I was a harsh critic of his for the first few matches. I think there's this general feeling every time that Arsenal lose a match that everyone's shit. That's just the immediate reaction amongst everybody. But
I just think Havertz is shit.
I understand, but like we're in second fucking place, right?
100%.
All the players you said are shit. How could we be in second place if everyone you said is overrated and not great?
Oh, it's just
our starting left winger,
it's just
our
Havertz,
starting
Jesus,
striker,
and Martinelli.
So 3 of our 11 are shit.
No, not shit. I
But
said
they're
Martinelli's
below
extremely
average.
overrated.
They're below
he's
average.
average. He's just
You
talked
called
about as a top
Martinelli and
three.
Jesus below average. That's what you called them.
I think I said bang average.
Bang
Did I
average.
not say bang average?
So the team that's in second and was in first until this weekend has 3 players
I
who
think
are
that says
bang
so
average.
much about Odegaard, Declan Rice, and your defense.
Okay.
I
think it's interesting.
I think you guys would be clearly in
you
first
talk about
if you had
changing the
any
bar.
sort of clinical finisher in the side.
Okay. All right, front 3. I went Saka on the right. I went Salah through the middle, and I went Nunez off the left.
So you cheated it to get an Arsenal
I didn't cheat
player
it.
in there.
I think. Well,
Salah plays right wing. No matter what, he is
he's
a right
an
winger.
inside
You
forward.
cannot call
Saka
him a
and
striker.
Salah could play. First of all, Salah's played a lot of striker in his time at Liverpool. He did.
He has.
Yes. He can very well play that position, and I think the dynamic of,
he can, but
I think the dynamic of Saka, Salah, Nunez would be fucking fascinating.
Sure, you make some special little combination, but the pick is, and we cheated a little in the midfield, but the pick is Salah
or Saka
in a combined 11.
Then it's Saka.
Okay, so we're obviously going to disagree there. I think the comments will back me up in the sense to where I think Saka is great, and you're splitting hairs with the 2 best right wingers in the Prem. But
You are splitting hairs.
You have to make a decision.
The 2 best right wingers in the world.
I think unbiasedly, I mean, not that I have a bias because it's 2 teams that I don't care for, but I think people who aren't Arsenal or Liverpool fans, I would say 85 to 90% of them would, probably 90 to 95% would say Salah.
Sound off in the comments. I think he's off by like 40%. I bet you we get 50% in the comments, Saka or Salah. I think it's a lot closer than you think it is amongst the world's population. Saka, there's a difference when a player finally gets to play in the Champions League. I think the world starts to see him differently. They get to watch him more often. And just from what I've seen on my timeline this year, like
the Arsenal timeline?
Just general soccer timeline, which is a little bit Arsenal bias, but it was always Arsenal bias. It's the same timeline I've always looked at. It always used to be the benchmark is when can Saka reach Salah's heights? Now it is Saka and Salah are on a level playing field.
As a Tottenham fan, I am a massive Saka fan. Like I
appreciate. I have a friend who still says Kulu is better.
That's insane.
Crazy
I will not shy away from how good Saka is. I just don't think you can put him over Salah.
I think Saka has not fully unlocked the finisher gene yet. He has certainly gotten better as a finisher in the last 18 months. If you watch his early catalog of goals, it was mostly him getting into the best positions, him creating a lot of his own chances in the box with tidy footwork, whatever it was. Over the last 12 months, he has started to score more of those Salah-type goals, we'll call them, with curling finishes.
Yeah.
Once he unlocks that finisher gene to the next level, then he is surpassed Salah because he's better than Salah at some other elements. And they also, again, we've talked, Salah's an inside forward, Saka's a right winger. It's a little bit of a different in goal scoring. But, okay.
Yeah. I think Salah, and one thing I really want to see on a more consistent basis, because Saka obviously plays with Kane in the England side, but I would be really excited to watch a Saka with an elite number 9 and see kind of how that works, because I think it would open up a lot of space.
You saw it for a little bit when he was obviously much younger, Saka, but Aubameyang's, not his last 6 months, the 6 months before he signed the deal when Saka moved to right wing.
Saka wasn't the player that he is.
But if you watch, a lot of his goal contributions came from the same types of deliveries he makes now, but Aubameyang was just the best finisher in the league that year. And I agree. I mean, that's why Arsenal are going to spend the amount of money they're going to spend this summer on a number 9.
Sources. Elite sources. All
right, so I'm not allowed to use the front 3 that I said. So then we have to go striker next?
Striker for striker.
All right, I mean, Darwin Nunez.
Okay.
By the way, I have been pro Darwin Nunez from the very beginning, even when again, it comes back to our conversation about big chances missed. I want a striker who is having the most big chances missed. They're in the best places. They are the smartest in the box. That means they're dragging defenders out of position. Darwin Nunez opens up everything for his attackers.
I put Nunez at striker as well, I think.
But by the way, he's got 4 goals and 5 assists in the Prem this series. Having
which
a good
is
season.
Slept on.
Yes.
Yeah.
Everyone, because he has the big chances missed, and those are the clips you see on Twitter.
And he's kind of just like such a memeable
and the price
guy.
And the price tag.
Well, of course, yeah. And Jesus, Jesus, I actually think there's Martinelli, don't think he's that quality of a player and hasn't had the goal involvements. I actually think Jesus is a quality player and doesn't have the goal involvements. And eventually, if this continues, you just need to ask questions and move on. So Jesus, nothing against him. I think Darwin's a good player. He's obviously 9 goal contribution. So yeah, I went Darwin, not because I don't think Jesus is a good player though.
Where'd you go at left wing?
I went Luis Diaz. He hasn't played as consistently as I would like to include him because you're looking at a smaller sample size, but I've made my thoughts clear about Martinelli on only episode 1 at least 6 or 7 times, which I'm sure will come
I can't
up.
wait until episode 20 when you're saying Martinelli's the best left winger in the world.
By the way, I am not
a hater.
I am a stubborn person sometimes, but on certain takes where I know that I am in the minority, I will ease up sooner and I will focus on it and try and be wrong because I know that people think I'm wrong. So if I'm wrong, I'll admit it. I will be more than happy to admit it.
We all got those cameras. He's going to admit it. Potentially right after Gabriel Martinelli continues his hot form against Liverpool. I didn't have him in here originally because I cheated and did Saka, Salah, Nunez. But I've not been
telling that you put Nunez over Martinelli?
Well, I think...
You think that dynamic of the front
I think
three.
that dynamic would be fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Well,
this guy is going to be the U.S. men's national team manager within the next 4 years with his dynamics.
That dynamic would be fantastic.
Yeah. No, I'm
going to put Martinelli strictly based off the fact that he scored home and away against Liverpool last year. I think he had 4 goal contributions across the 2 matches. This is where he has to get right. I don't think Luis Diaz has quite hit form this year the way he had in prior years. I think he's still not fully healthy.
I mean, his dad just got kidnapped. So let's give him some time.
Goes without saying. But yeah, I'm going to throw Martinelli in there. I think he's got to get, the clock's ticking and he's mentality is a major part of young footballers. And he has a fantastic mentality. So I think he'll get back to his best this weekend.
All right, so we agreed pretty much the entire way. Let us know what you guys have as your front 3. I think that's obviously the biggest debate point for this combined 11.
Somebody's going to have Eddie and Kedia in there in the comments.
I please don't. I'll block that comment if someone puts them in.
I would too. All right. Well, is that one episode?
That's episode 1.
Crazy.
Episode 1 of Yanks Abroad. Let us know what you guys want us to talk about going forward. We have some exciting episodes coming up. Early preview of the Euros and our transfer market special as soon as the January window opens. Like and subscribe if you've enjoyed, and we will see you next week. Until then, peace out.
See ya.